Best damn podcast, the best damn town. You wanna get up, get ready to get down. With its big wide sky and the wild river Thames, if you wanna go, we can take you there to Great Falls, Montana.
Welcome to the greatest damn town in Montana, Great Falls. I'm Rebecca Ingham.
I'm Shannon Newth.
And we're no damn experts. And people, you've listened to me for over 2 years, and I'm just going to say it is June in Montana, and for some reason, the outdoors are not agreeing with my nasal passages this year. This has never been this big of an issue for me, I don't think, in 10 years.
Yeah. We were talking the other day that I think the pollen count is what's so high right now or so out of whack.
So, folks, if you have allergies, I completely get it. Just put some more allergy medicine in your body. Like, I'm not stopping being outdoors. It's June.
Right. This is typically,
this is the height of the season.
It is.
To get out and experience. Well, for me, because then it starts to get too hot.
It gets too hot and smoky sometimes. But I'm hoping, that's the nice thing is the fact that it's kind of cooler and rainier now. I'm hoping, probably not, but I'm hoping that'll help for later in the year.
So I'll just apologize in advance that I'm not so chocolatey and sexy
You're not
sounding.
as chocolatey and sexy. You're more
raspy
stuffy and
smelly cat.
Smelly cat is what I was thinking. Hey, that's
everybody
a big
knows.
Hit. That's a big
everybody
hit.
knows.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about a really neat event that I always get wrong.
Get confused the name of it. Yeah.
So it's happening next week. Tell us the correct name of this event.
The correct name is Waking the Dead.
Okay.
You tend to say Walking the Dead.
Yeah, because you walk.
It's like because you're trying to make it like a zombie event.
No, because you walk from one grave to the next.
You can get a wagon ride too.
Yeah, but mostly
walking. Yeah.
And you're getting to visit with dead people.
Correct.
So
you sure are.
I just am saying that because even though I screw this up, there's good rationale as to why I screw it up.
Both describe the event.
But we are talking about Waking the Dead, which happens in June as part of the Paris Gibson month festivities in our great city.
Yes.
So Great Falls, founded by Minnesota native and flour miller Paris Gibson. And we celebrate him and his valiant efforts. I don't even know what goes into founding a town. It honestly
seems
can't
like
be
a lot.
that hard.
Especially, he put a lot of thought into how he would lay out the town, which I feel like that part's a little more challenging.
But also, I don't think he did that. I think he was like visiting with other people who lay out towns and been like, hey, what do you think about this? And they're like, that's a pretty solid idea, Paris.
Right.
And they did it. Like, I don't think he's there laying the nails on the railroad tracks. And
probably not.
I think he's filing the paperwork.
Yeah. Which would you rather do? You like paperwork. Yeah. Never mind. You like that stuff.
Yeah.
So July 1st is Paris Gibson's birthday.
Oh.
So this event is always the Sunday closest to Paris Gibson's birthday. Do you have, I'm putting you on guard here.
Let's do it.
Do you have any idea of what birthday this would have been for Paris Gibson? I'm making you do a little math here. Hint, it's not his 50th.
Yeah, clearly. I'm going to go with 145th.
194th.
Oh.
Yeah, it would have been his 194th birthday on July 1st.
It's an old fella.
It is.
I mean, people were old.
This is true.
I want to say people were born old in the
like
1800s, 1900s. They were born and they
were born
looked
old,
like they
and
were
it was
60.
just that for the next however many decades.
There's not many pictures of babies from back then.
I
is
think
all
that
I'm
had
saying.
more to do with technology, but But yes,
you
you're
can have
correct.
your own opinion. Clearly,
Everyone was a Benjamin Button situation.
so 194th birthday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're celebrating it in style with Waking the Dead.
That's right. Good job. You got it correct. This is the 14th annual Waking the Dead. It was started by our friends who you've heard from before. You'll hear from again sometime on the podcast. But Norma Ashby Smith and her husband Dwight Smith are integral parts of making this event happen. And you might be like, why would I want to come to an event at a cemetery?
It's really an awesome event.
It is.
First, let me just say, if you're not into going to old cemeteries and just seeing the variety of headstones that exist,
Correct. What are you doing?
you're not living life correctly.
Which sounds weird, but it's true.
It is. There are so many ornate headstones and they go back so far.
Yes.
I mean, we're all used to seeing the Westerns where they just haphazardly try to shove a cross into something that's made out of tumbleweed from the
Yeah.
fence line that they saw. But these are sandstone sculptures. They're granite. They are just really amazing memorials to the people that these stones now represent.
Yes.
And the opportunity to go back in time with them is amazing. So that's first. Second, to find those old headstones and then have the person who's buried underneath it come to life and tell you their story. What more do you want
Yeah.
out of entertainment? That's
Right.
just an amazing experience.
Live action theater right there.
And our team of people, volunteers who put this event on, are dressed in period outfits. They know the entire story of the person they're representing, and they're adding cultural value to your experience and learning about history. History in Great Falls.
Yeah.
Which really is the history of the world.
It's true. I mean, there's some pretty substantial, I mean, like you talked about, there's newer graves, of course, out there, but then there's ones that go back to the 1800s that are out there, and it's a whole wide variety of people. I mean, there's the celebrities of the day, like Charlie Russell and his wife Nancy are out there. Paris Gibson and his wife Valeria are out there. I mean, there's some big names from Great Falls and history out there, as well as maybe lesser known people who were very important in our history too.
People you wouldn't expect. There's a professional baseball player out there that I don't remember his name, but his headstone is in the shape of a mitt, a glove.
Is it? I don't think I've seen that one.
It's pretty awesome.
Huh. Yeah, and so like one of the 3-time mayor of Great Falls is out there. We talked about Charlie Russell, but Seltzer, Olaf Carl Seltzer,
O.C. Seltzer,
out there as well. George Montgomery, the actor, also
he was
out
in
there.
a lot of westerns, hammering in those tumbleweed crosses.
Somebody I want to know more about. Now, I don't have the full list of who all, they're keeping that a little bit of a surprise for us.
With good reason. Buy your ticket, people.
That's right. Of who all will be there, but there will be 10 graves that they will visit, that you'll visit and get to hear the stories for the tours this year. One I'm curious about is somebody named Lynn Meredith. It says a Secret Service agent.
Ooh.
I'm very intrigued. I want somebody to bring Lynn to life.
Yeah. And find out who he was detail for and what things he saw. And
yeah, it's notable enough that it's a specific mention on the Highland Cemetery's page.
also, I'm just going to share with you, these reenactors, we'll call them, actually do the research.
Right.
Vastly different than us.
Yes.
Vastly different than this podcast. But they reach out to family members. They pull photos and stories from their actual life from the people who are still around and knew them, which is very neat So they're immersed.
Yeah.
This isn't like they just decided on, Friday night that they're going to show up on whatever day this
and
is.
I'm just going to memorize this little few talking points.
No. They're doing all the research, all the levels of research on each one of these characters that they're going to represent.
And I am guessing that Nancy Russell will be there. She is typically there at Waking the Dead. And there's a woman who is just a Nancy Russell expert. And she's been portraying Nancy for years and years and years. And so she knows Nancy inside and out. So I imagine that she'll be there. But so let's see. Let's tell you the specifics. We mentioned next weekend. So that means it's actually on Sunday, June 30th.
Okay.
There are 2 different options for you, 1 p.m. and 3 p.m.
Ooh.
And you can walk, like you said, or you can ride on a wagon or a little trailer.
That wagon has hay bales on it for your little bum.
That's right. So you can sit and go around on that. Depending if you walk, it's a little bit cheaper, $15 or $20 to hop a ride. So, and here's the thing, though, if you're going to come into town, just be aware that your tickets, you get them at Kaufmans Menswear in downtown Great Falls. Our friend Brian Kaufman, who's been on the podcast before, he'll hook you up. I mean, he's great. Things like that, if you're last minute, whatever. But you get your tickets from Kaufman's.
Yeah, who's been in business for over
100 years. Yeah. We're doing a lot of historical things recently on the podcast. Yeah. And it's out at Highland Cemetery, which is just south of town. It's not far, but it's just on the southern edge of town. And this cemetery, like we talked about, has so many different areas. And
it's a beautiful cemetery.
It really is a beautiful spot.
Shrouded in trees.
Yes. Some areas. I think that over the years, the trees and the roots may have caused some different issues where the groundskeepers have had to take care of that, which would be an interesting thing to navigate.
Yeah. And the things you don't think about. And I think from my perspective, when you're planning a cemetery, you don't always expect it to get the use it does. And then it just keeps growing. And then you're now on top of
what
trees.
What do we do now with this? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, you will, at the end of the tour, you will get a booklet with photos and all the stories from the featured graves and things like that there.
Before we walked in for this podcast, I was looking for my books because this is just awful. I've never done this. I get so excited.
You never do the tour? I've never done it either. I've gone out there. I've talked with Dwight and Norma.
Like in the cemetery.
It just sounds weird when we're talking about that, but I've done like a on camera story with them about that, which is available on our YouTube channel. If you just go there and search Waking the Dead, you can hear directly from Dwight and Norma about it. But I'm trying to make it this year.
I want to do it every year, and then something happens, and here's the deal, folks. It's just one day.
Right.
Granted, there's 2 showings, but it's just
one option.
One day. And so that's what usually screws me up is that it's the one day where I simply can't make it. But then I've told Norma, sell the books afterwards so I can just buy a book.
Yes.
And then I can read about it, even though, it's just really a secondary experience after that.
Right. It's a better experience in person.
Because the amount of, gumption that people put into their performance, they're not phoning it in, folks.
No. I know Dwight has portrayed Captain John Moran in the past, who's buried out there in part of the veterans area, which is really neat as well. It's a whole separate section.
And they're in, like I said, period clothing.
Correct.
So he's in general clothing.
Yeah.
I think he just owns it.
Probably. I'm not sure around here there's really a good rental
right
spot for these things. Yeah, I think you own that.
I think you own that.
And it's a Halloween costume. It's all of that.
You just pull it out every now and again and walk around downtown
have a wedding
with it.
Just wear that.
I'm going to get some use out of this thing. And 10 different people that are going to have 10 different actors. Every now and again, you have maybe 9 or 8 actors and one person has to do 2 roles.
Switches out. You see them running
So
around
you,
the edge of the
skirting
cemetery.
around the cemetery to
That's
get
funny.
to their next gravestone and changing clothes as they run. But I've seen that.
Just ignore that if you see that.
Don't even
Yeah.
pay attention to that. You need to be focused on whoever the dead person is talking at that time.
Not the dead one running.
Right.
Yeah. That's right.
And they're standing out in usually heat. There is water that usually accompanies these experiences. But I'm telling
Bring
you,
what you need. Yeah.
where else in Montana are you going to find anything like this?
Right. It is a really neat experience and just speaks so much. We talk about the history of our area and the significance of that and some of the significance of the different people like Paris Gibson and Charlie Russell and things like that who helped build what we know Great Falls is today. And this just gives you, it's another layer of that here to be able to learn about them.
And I think the other thing that's really neat about it is you're learning history in a way that isn't about reading it in a textbook.
Yeah, exactly. Or standing in I mean, we love our museums, but this is, you're not standing there
and
looking at
reading.
something. Right.
And it reminds me of when Dan and his brother-in-law were on the podcast talking about Annie and
Yes.
her tenacity to be the first woman with a proven
Yeah.
claim to land. I mean, those are the types of experiences that there's just so much more you can get out of that history lesson when someone is telling you their story, and
It sinks in a little more.
it's really awesome. And it's summer and your kids need more education because they haven't been in
That's
school
right.
for a
This
while.
is a great way to keep the education going in a way that they will remember outside of the classroom. That's right. I'm looking here. So on the Highland Cemetery website and some of the historical websites for Montana, because it's showing some of these old graves, which are just fascinating to look at. Again, the things that were made in history were so much more ornate and long-lasting and cooler than how we do them now.
So much detail.
Right. And they're
I have to
humongous.
Their families just loved them more back then than they do
We're not
now.
gonna give you a little stone here in this, cremate you. We're gonna make a massive thing for. Well, and how much these cost in the day, which is maybe not
Relative.
great because we're even in death showing our social levels, but so maybe that's better now. But you can see like how huge some of these markers are. There's one where it was a cast iron marker out there, like the very first cast iron one that was made out there. There's massive ones here from another metal marker. It's kind of talking about the progression of some of these here. There's a grand one for Robert Vaughn, who of course was the founder of Vaughn, just outside of Great Falls.
Yep, and who the Celtic Cowboy and our Vaughan Hotel is named after.
And then there is a whole Vaughn family plot. So there's a huge, massive one, and then small little ones around it there in the family plot. I mean, and there's some too where there's, trees and bushes have overgrown and they have the whole like square section outlined. And it's really interesting. Maybe you're weirded out that we're so excited about graves, but it's just a really interesting. And then this talks about, of course, the Scottish immigrants who came over in the late 1800s and settled in Montana. I mean, there's one here. His family was out in Glasgow, of course, Glasgow, Montana, from people who came from Glasgow, Scotland. Yeah.
I know it may not be on everybody's itinerary, but cemeteries in any town give you a good glimpse into what kind of people they were, how they were founded, and just a little glimpse of history. And today, headstones are pretty standard. Like there's not anything.
There's not even a headstone. It's
just a
tile,
marker,
basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
So to look back and see the uniqueness and the craftsmanship that went into honoring their loved ones or honoring their family, it's just worth a stop. So go find some graveyards. Just hang out
in a legal way in the hours that they're open.
Yeah.
Just throw it out there.
Wow.
They do.
Guess who the buzzkill in this group is?
I mean, I'm just saying that so they don't. It doesn't come back on us that we told them to go out there. I'm just protecting us legally, because people take us out seriously. So Norma was telling me, and I don't have all of the details on this. This is why you have to go there and then watch for more information. I imagine that the Highland Cemetery will add this to their website and information at some point. But there's been work that's been done to unveil and learn more about an area called Potter's Field in the Highland Cemetery area. And so from my understanding, this is kind of a unmarked grave area, mass grave area where they've found, this is getting dark, but like children and others in this area. And so to my understanding, there's been a lot of research and work that's been done lately to identify and better understand that area. So I think that that's something new this year that's going to be talked about in Waking the Dead, is this Potter's Field area of Highland Cemetery.
Exciting.
It is, in terms of like the historical element out there and just the continued unveiling of the story of this area, the history, good, bad, and different of what happened here, and learning more about that. So I think I'm excited, sounds weird, but excited to hear what comes of that and more about this Potter's Field, because again, it's filling in those gaps of history that maybe are not talked about as much in this area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also of note, it's not like people are going out there and casing headstones and picking who gets to be featured in Waking the Dead. It's more about what the story is, what information they can find. Because if they can't find enough information, they're not going to stand up and go, here lies
20
Bob.
seconds. Yeah. Right.
We couldn't find anything about him.
But he was cool.
We assume he looked like this on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
And then there's a kid and he pats him on the back. He was a loving father. A doting
Moving
husband.
on. Yeah. No,
that's... So there, and it's also not based on social status. It's not based on your headstone is the cutest or most decorated. It's really a lesson in history and pulling those history elements alive. So it could feature anybody. We don't know. You have to show up to learn.
Right. And so I'm excited to hear more about who those 10 are that they're featuring this year. But yeah, so again, Waking the Dead or Walking the Dead, whatever you want to call it.
You'll be as confused as me after you're done, because
you're like, which one was that?
I walked in a cemetery with dead people, but it's Waking the Dead.
I walked with dead people who are awake.
Yep.
Waking the Dead. So 14th annual Waking the Dead happening at Highland Cemetery, featuring 10 people who will wake from the dead and come to life there for these tours. Again, that's on Sunday, June 30th, 2 different times, 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. It's $15 per ticket if you want to walk, or $20 per ticket if you want to ride, and you get those at Kaufmans Menswear downtown.
You need help making a weekend out of it. I don't know why you would, but we're here to help. You can do museums, you can do River's Edge Trail, you can do some of our state parks. You can take in some of the other events that are happening in town.
Yep. And at that point, it's close to Independence Day, which we have a lot going on around Independence Day in Great Falls.
Yep.
There's a lot happening. It's a really fun place to be for the 4th of July, so you may as well just come and then stay the week.
Yeah. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah. That's our recommendation.
So folks, be happy. We've shared
now
with
that we've
you.
talked a bunch about graves and dead people. Yep.
We're alive. We're well. And we are happy about this event. And so we want you to be in Great Falls. I mean, that's why we do this podcast. That's why we do anything we do, is because we want you to come experience our town. So do it already. Or else. And until we see your bright, smiling, happy, healthy face in our fine city, we do hope you are creating amazing memories with your friends and family wherever you might be. See you soon.
We Are No Dam Experts is the recorded claims from Great Falls, Montana, covering what you need to know about this amazing damn town.